Seeing that again, you in?
Yeah, oh yeah, my gosh, yes, it's over now, isn't it? Yes, it was really fun to see it again. It was, what a place to record in.
It was recorded. I thought that you were going to be out there just singing to the public, you know, and talking about stage fright. You haven't got any stage fright. All those guys were going to work and coming back from work, getting off trains, going in all directions, and you were out there pitching, singing.
It was sort of nice to not know who my audience was going to be, and they didn't know I was going to be there, so there was no anticipatory fear that there was going to be a concert, because it wasn't really a concert. It was you know, for the purpose of making it into a television show. It was really fun and very spontaneous, and there were a lot of obstacles that we had to work around, such as the cavernous, huge, you know, I mean, the sound just kind of came out of our mouths and circled the entire place and came back and into some tape recorder somewhere that had to weed it out.
You had a pitch that was way down here. It was a great voice. Your voice carried well. You held, I know, held the microphone close, but it nevertheless worked. You got an Oscar for that song. For that song, I did indeed. Yes, that was the song that was the song from the movie Working Girl, which Mike Nichols directed. One of many, many awards. You know, I'm thinking back to the very beginning. You had your first album, which was awarded a Grammy.
I can hardly move through my house because I have to sort of push the awards off to the side as I move.
But the trouble, hang on, but the trouble, Carly, what I'm trying to get at with you is the trouble is that when you get such an award for your very first album, it creates untold pressures, doesn't it, on you to have to perform, to have to deliver again and again and again, to that standard.
It's the bite, you know, it's the bite. It's the smell of success, and it's very dangerous, and it's very heady and seductive. And my intention when I first began writing songs was never to be an actual stage performer, because I'd always been shy about getting up on stage. And so my thought was to make songs for other people to sing. And as it turned out, I wrote very difficult songs. I mean, I wrote songs that are not particularly singable. I can't, you know, I wish I was easier on myself. So I ended up recording my first album thinking it was going to be more or less a song demo that I'd be able to get out to other artists. And then my very first single that was released became a hit, which was That's the Way I've Always Heard It Should Be. And there was almost no going back.
I read this Vanity Fair article, and I wondered whether you felt that you shouldn't have done it ultimately. You wrote about your family in a way that most people would find very difficult. You did an interview which was written up in that way. And it's 2 years now since your mother died, isn't it? Do you feel that, in retrospect, you shouldn't have done it, given the interview?
Yes, I definitely feel as if I shouldn't have done it. It was something, I thought it was going to be something entirely different. It was supposed to be a story for the New Yorker, and it was supposed to be, it was not supposed to be an artist profile, because they don't do that in the New Yorker, so it was supposed to be a piece on creativity. And then for one reason or another, the New Yorker decided not to publish it, and the writer took it to Vanity Fair, and so it became twisted into another kind of a story, which I would not have been comfortable agreeing to do when it started out. So for me, it became a very sore point. The woman who wrote it is an extremely talented writer and actually knew my family, and had access to a lot of members of the family, and had been married actually to somebody who had lived with us. And so there was a lot of information that she had that I was very uncomfortable with, and felt as if it should not have been divulged, and only I am to blame, because I probably could have stopped it at the point when it went to Vanity Fair from when it was originally supposed to be a New Yorker piece, and I exercised poor judgment in allowing it to be published, but an awful lot of people liked it, and also found a lot in it that could help them. So there were obviously very good things about the piece and things that helped people, but I myself am ashamed of the information which I, you know, supposedly divulged. I would not have wanted to do that if given a second chance.
Your family have stood by you, though. Your sisters, for example, have stood by you. You talked about them in the article, and it comes across as being a close family, a loving family.
Yes,
but I wonder whether now your sisters understand. I mean, they must understand, given that this is the kind of pressure you have to go through every day of your life, really.
There was a great deal of turmoil about it. The whole family felt betrayed, felt as if I had made a mistake, as if the writer had betrayed us, and it was really an upheaval. Mm-hmm. It caused the family and friends of my mother a great deal of anguish, and I guess this is what interviewers have to do sometimes. They just have to look out for themselves, and I understand what she did and why she had to do it.
Does that mean, though, you will not do many more articles or interviews like that?
It certainly gives me great pause, and I don't know, and I think I would be much more discreet. I really trusted this woman. I mean, I think I make a great mistake in trusting people too easily, and I think that she was trustworthy for the business that she's in. But yes, I will think twice about doing another interview, and I will be much more circumspect in my responses.
It touched so many areas of your life, really, and I know there's a line in that which I've wondered whether your own children, Sally and Ben, kind of felt slightly taken aback by when you said you felt that James Taylor never really loved you. Looking back, you thought maybe he didn't love you. And for the children of your marriage to him, to read that must have been slightly, not shocking, but getting close.
No, they really understand me, and they know where I was coming from in that comment. So no, that wasn't one of the lines in the article that caused me grief. No, because it was a maybe situation. Maybe he didn't love me the way I had thought that he loved me, and maybe he did. That was sort of a comment of the day. That was something that I don't think anybody took particularly seriously.
Let me stop you for a moment, Carly. We'll take a break now. If you've just joined us, I'm talking to one of America's most popular singer-songwriters, Carly Simon. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. I'm talking to Carly Simon, who wrote and sang such classics as You're So Vain and Coming Around Again. Let me ask you about this other talent you have for writing children's books. Did you want always to write children's books, or was it because of Jackie Onassis that you decided you felt, I'll have a go at it, because she was encouraging maybe, or that someone else was involved and you wanted to have a go at doing that? Has it been something you've always wanted to do, first of all?
No, I never thought of writing children's books. The way it happened was when the kids were small, it was our favorite time, was bedtime. And we'd all get together on one of our beds, and I'd read them books. And then inevitably, because of the enjoyment that we had in each other, it was not a soporific atmosphere. And so in order to make it more of that they would go to sleep, I would turn out the lights. But of course I hadn't memorized all these children's books, so I started making up my own stories. And this became a source of real fun for me, because I didn't have an audience that I had to worry about whether they were going to be terribly critical of me or what. So just anything that I felt like came out. And over the years, there was natural editing that was done with the stories, things that they liked or didn't like, or things that they reacted to, changed the way the story came out. And of course they had their favorite stories, and they said, Mom, tell us the one about Amy the dancing bear. And that kept on getting better year after year as I changed it according to the audience reaction. And so when they became young teenagers and no longer wanted me to be in their bedrooms at night, and we kind of split up as a threesome, I thought I better write these down so I don't forget them. And so I started to write the stories down, thinking that they'll be, I'll blow off the dust when the grandchildren arrive and be able to read the stories to them. And just around that time, Jackie Onassis called me and asked me, she said, you're so autobiographical a composer in your songs, I think you'd be wonderful to write. I think it'd be wonderful if you wrote your autobiography. And so you don't say no to Jackie Onassis. This was one of the first times I had spoken to her. And I said, oh, sure, I will. And so I started writing. I wrote about 80 pages of it and then decided I just couldn't do it. There was something about it that was too, I don't know, just full of myself. And so I said, I can't do it. And I said, but I do have these children's stories. Would you like to take a look at them? And she did, and she loved them, and it was because of her that those came out instead of my autobiography. Although maybe in those stories there's the real me, the real story of my life. And Amy the Dancing Bear, she is me.
She is you.
I am the dancing bear.
How does it cross-pollinate then when you're writing children's books and you're writing your songs and your music as well? It is a totally different discipline, isn't it?
It's not really. I find that creativity comes from the same source. And it's a matter of my imagination working or not working. And the same thing comes into play when I decorate a room. I just, I said, gee, I wonder how this and that would look in that corner instead of over here. Let me try that over there. I try a note. I see whether that note works. I see whether the chord works. I see whether the word works with the note and the chord. It's a little rearrangement of elements in the universe, just as it is in a room that you want to decorate, or when you put on clothes and you say, well, I like these pearls, would that suit? Or maybe I don't. Maybe I'll try this on. It's a collection of ideas that get played around with.
Wasn't it
very playful?
Wasn't it that word, imagination, that you first heard your father say about someone in your family say about you, Carly, you have such imagination, and you didn't know what the word imagination meant?
No, you're thinking of hysteria. That was the word.
Who said that about you? Your father or your mother?
My mother.
Your mother?
My mother, yeah.
And do you remember what you were doing when she said that you
Yes, I had
such
just had my first panic attack over a bowl of Cheerios. And I was sitting up there, and I ran from the table in the kitchen, and I ran upstairs, and I wanted to be put in a straitjacket. I'd just learned the word straitjacket, I guess. I was about eight years old. And then when I finally was subdued, which was after a couple of hours of thrashing about, and the doctor came, and I remember hearing my mother say in the next room to the doctor, she was just hysterical. She was just hysterical. And I didn't know what that meant, but I learned, and then I followed suit as best as I could. And I have stayed hysterical to this day.
When you say your first panic attack, what was that? What was it about then? What was happening inside of you that made you think, I feel so, well, whatever you felt about this bowl of Cheerios?
Well, I don't know. They don't know about panic attacks. They don't know what makes you have one, or why some people are kind of biologically disposed to them and others have never had them.
Do you still have them?
Yes.
And what do you have them about, particularly now?
It's usually kind of free-floating. They very often come out of the blue, and that's what's so disquieting, is you never know. I mean, I could have one right now, and then I wouldn't know what to do. I mean, luckily now they have a lot of medications which are antidepressants, which also work on anxiety attacks. They're just as much for anxiety attacks as they are for depression. And really, one is the flip side of the other. Anxiety and depression are so related.
So how do you manage to live in a city like this when there is this, if I can call it a weakness, I'm thinking carefully about using that word, but if there's a weakness in your system where you feel if you go into a panic attack, you wouldn't know what to do. To live in a city is hard as hell, isn't it? When you're like this.
It's just as bad in the country.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But you can have a space around you. You can perhaps feel a little more secure, can't you?
But you know what? Once you realize that people are not dangerous, that people are there to support you. I mean, now I feel comfortable enough, for instance, if I had one on a bus, I could say to the person sitting next to me, would you mind holding my hand? I'm having a panic attack. Or would you mind putting your arms around me? That's what usually helps me more than just a simple handhold.
And they do that to you. They do that.
Yes, I mean, people are tremendously supportive. You just have to give them a chance.
Some people you'd think in New York City would say, hang on, lady.
That's never happened to me.
That's wonderful.
I don't have so many of them walking around the streets of New York that this is a daily occurrence. But just to say to you that I feel the safety of just knowing that it doesn't matter where you have the panic attack. you're the same, whether you have it alone in your bedroom or whether you have it in, I mean, for years I went through the feeling of, oh my God, if I have one, I'll be so embarrassed to have it in front of all these people at the party or whatever. But in fact, it gives them something to go home and tell other people about if you do. It's more interesting than if it doesn't happen.
Is this where stage fright comes from with you?
That's right. It's not, I don't have stage fright. I have panic disorder. And so if the panic is exacerbated by the tension of having to do a performance, then it's more likely to occur on stage, and then it's more uncomfortable to get through a song. I can't actually do what I'm professionally committed to do.
But it must be getting better because you are going out more, you are singing more, you're heading out there to reach out to people.
That's right. Well, there was a 15-year period when I didn't do it at all. And, you know, I've never performed in Europe.
Ever? And yet you've been in London a lot, I know.
I've never performed in London.
You've lived in London?
I've lived in London, but I've never performed there.
Why not?
It just never happened. I guess well, the hiatus of when I stopped performing to when I started again was 1981 to 1995. So during the time before 81, the kids were very small, and I was being, you know, a mother who stayed at home all the time, so I wasn't performing that much anyway. But when I did, I didn't do anything in Europe, so I'm looking very much forward to coming to Europe and performing for the first time.
That's wonderful.
Assuming that you'll have me.
Of course we'll have you. This Clouds in My Coffee, let's pick on this now. It's a retrospective. People, when they do retrospectives, particularly with something as important as this, often signifies, I suppose, an end to a part of their life. Is that right?
I suppose so. Well, yes. I mean, I did have a best of album, for instance, which an awful lot of people had. They say, I have your best of. Well, it's only up until 1977. I'd only written 10 songs or something by that point. So that, I mean, I always want to say, oh, well, that was only my best of, that was only the beginning. So in other words, I wish that it had a better label on it, you know, a label to say this was only the best of until 1977. So yes, this has a label that says Clouds in My Coffee, and it's you know, basically the best of between 1965 and 1995.
What did you leave out that you wanted to put in and couldn't put in?
Oh, a lot of things that were personal, you know, sort of personal favorites of mine, especially from my early years. But we couldn't fit everything on there, and we were only allowed a certain number of cuts from Elektra, which was my first label. It was just it's a matter of politics and so forth.
Can I just have a quick look before we close this? Can we pick it up on this camera here? No? Let's have a look, see. There we go. Now that little girl there, is that you?
That's me and my mummy.
That's you and your mummy?
Yes, yes, this one is me, yes.
Isn't that sweet?
Yes.
These are the pictures that your father took of you when you were a little girl. This one? Yes. This one here?
All of the, yeah, well, this one my brother took. That's myself and my daughter, Sally.
She's been in London, hasn't she? She's lived in Europe for a little while, hasn't she, Sally?
No, she's never lived in London. Okay. We've been to London together, but she's never lived.
And this one behind me, I want to show everybody. Can we see that one on camera? We got it? There.
Those are my sisters and myself. That's before my brother was born. Yes. And I'm the little one with the glasses. I still like to play with sunglasses. I have mine with me. Yes.
There you go. Love the glasses. This is Carly Simon.
Thank you.
Incognito. Thank you very much, Carly.
Bye, Selina.
It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Let's take that break now. We'll be hearing more from Carly at the end of the show. Join me in a moment.